Hello everyone, thank you for coming. It's been almost a month since I've come back from Nepal, from Everest, and it's very surreal, coming back on ground, but yeah, it's been an amazing experience, and that's what I've come here for, to share that experience with you. And not just that experience, but my experience of how I got there, as an entrepreneur as well. I'm a serial entrepreneur. I have had, way back in 2000, as Ishwari mentioned, I started a digital marketing company when nobody knew what digital marketing was. Me and a batchmate from IIM Bangalore only, another friend, we started that. We exited successfully, sold it to Ogilvy after a couple of years. And then, since then, I've been in that space. And then eventually, some 8 years ago, I started Rustik Travel, a travel company. That's something because I love traveling, so I thought, why don't I do something where I get to travel more? So more about that. So this is mainly going to talk about my journey of how I got there. And what I found was that when I came back from Everest, and even before I got the invite to speak here, I was thinking, even whilst walking, summiting Everest, there's hours and hours of walking you do, and you keep on thinking while you're walking, right? Like the summit, the entire summit was close to 20 hours, going up and down, just walking, and you have to be focused and you think. And and you cannot make mistakes, right? One step here and there, although you're on the rope, but you could fall, something could happen, the weathers change. But I was drawing back my experience as an entrepreneur. In many stages of my life, there have been a lot of ups and downs. When I was working, especially for myself. And I just went and think about those certain experiences, how I emerged from there. So, those things helped. And that's something I want to share with you, how mountaineering or entrepreneurship, they marry each other. So I thought there are some lessons which we learned for them. So I zeroed down on 7 of them. And this will also follow my journey as we went to Mount Everest. So I think it has to start with passion. If you like something, I think you should only do that. Otherwise, if you're just chasing money, maybe not. I mean, that's a very personal viewpoint. The other things, the rewards are all incidental. They will come if you like something. So you have to find your passion. Easier said than done, because as I said, it took me, I started with something else in my first startup, then I'm doing something else. So it's a long journey, you keep on doing multiple things, it's fine. But you have to like something when you start something. So for me, my love for mountains started way back, 40 years ago, 30, 40 years ago, when as a young child, I think 10 years old, we used to travel quite a bit as a family during summer vacations. And my mother grew up in North Bengal, near Darjeeling, that area. So we used to go to that part of the country quite often. And I still remember as a 10-year-old, we were in Sikkim, and it was very pristine then, this early 80s. And I looked at Kanchenjunga. I still had that memory etched in my mind. I was just, taken aback. It was one of those moments, still I have that memory. So it's, from there it just grew. So that's how the love of mountains came. And along with that, I was very much involved in sports. I used to play a lot of football. In campus, I used to play quite a bit. We used to play sepak takraw here. I used to get injured. There are some pics from those days. This is from C block. I used to live in C block with Shanish, same C top. Used to get injured. I used to get a lot of injuries during playing. But again, that's sports and all that instilled a discipline in me. It instilled a way of life to keep yourself fit. Wake up and do something, run or walk, do yoga, or do something. So that has become, I think that has started maybe long back. So when after my first startup, which I sold off, and I moved to Bangalore. I was in Mumbai, and I think this was 5 years into my career. I was pretty burnt out during that time, and I was because we were working very hard, and so I had taken a sabbatical in between, and it gave me time to think that what really made me happy. And I went back to my childhood. I looked at mountains made me happy, sports, those activities, they made me happy. So early 2000s, I started doing that. Okay, so I started trekking. I think my first Himalayan trek, multi-day camping trek, was a place called Pindari Glacier in Kumaon, way back in 2005. I remember I did my first half marathon in 2004 in Bangalore. They had the first marathon ever. And both felt like Everest to me at that time, right? So I'm sure when you are looking at starting a company also, it is an Everest. So, so I did that, and then from there it, went on from there. Second is inspiration. So for me, okay, I knew what I liked doing, so I used to, do those things. Then I remember in 2011, I went to Everest Base Camp. I went to Nepal for the first time. I went for the trek there. Again, Everest Base Camp itself was like, wow, could I do it? Could I not? I spoke to some, so many people who had done it before. That is it doable? What is high altitude like? What kind of fitness levels you need? Is it cold? Things like that just came to your mind, because it's something which is very, uncertain. You don't know. So we went there. We were a group of 3. We started trekking, and that time I was generally very fast. I used to run up and reach the camp where we were staying. One of the first ones to land there, and eventually we reached the base camp. It was beautiful. And along the way, this was first week of April, I still remember. So this is the time when the climbers who are climbing the summit, they start from Kathmandu. And along the way, you meet a lot of people in a trek, right? You meet a lot of Sherpas in Everest 3-4 times. So, you get those fanboy moments, and you take pictures with them. So I took a lot of pictures with lots of them, lots of Sherpas and climbers who were, attempting it again. So when to reach the base camp, we came back, and we stopped at a place called Namche Bazaar. It is along the route. It's at 3,500 meters, and it's a very, it's a small town at that altitude. It's a very beautiful place. Of course, over the years, it has expanded a bit, and you get everything there. It has pubs, bars, cafes, pool tables. It's a beautiful place. And the lodge we were staying at the dining hall, I saw some commotion happening. And there was a filming crew there. And I saw that they were filming one man there. So I asked my guide, who is this guy? So he said, he's going up. So I asked him, is he going to the base camp? No, he's going to climb Everest. And I looked at that man. He looked very old. He said he's 81 years old. So I said, okay, I have to meet him. So I met him, and so this is that man. That's me with the long hair. At that time I was in a phase. His name was Shailendra Kumar Upadhyay. He was actually an Indian freedom fighter who moved to Nepal around that time, early after 40s. And he was the first foreign minister of the democratic government of Nepal in the 90s. And later on, he represented Nepal in the UN as well. And he liked trekking, hiking, etc., and he had retired by then. He was 81, and he wanted to climb Everest. He would be the oldest man to climb Everest. So he was doing that. This is the year 2011. So I was like, I met him. I was totally inspired. Then I came back to India, and he went ahead. So when I came back to India, I was like, Googled him, following his progress. And then I came upon an article that while coming down from Camp 1 during acclimatization rotations, he died. So he had AMS, acute mountain sickness, and he just died. So I remember talking to a friend about him. And my friend said that, at least he died doing what he loved most. And this is a friend who's, again, a batchmate, very cynical guy. I wouldn't expect him to say this. He's my roommate. But that thing just struck me. And, again, that sentence is still with me, now. And that's what I realized that, okay, why do we do things what other people think it's good, right? We should do things what we like or what we love the most. So this was a huge inspiration, and that line, what my friend told me about. So skills and experience, they go together in hand, but I think for entrepreneurship, you have to be an all-rounder. You have to have multiple skills. Over the years, like I used to be in digital marketing, like right from actually I got access to internet here in IIM Bangalore, right? In 96, we were, I think, one of the first ones in India to get internet access, where none of the other IIMs had. We had a T1 line when only there were 10 connections in India, including Shammi Kapoor. So we were really privileged, actually, and it was a huge exposure to that. And I knew it then that I need to be in this field. And of course, there were not many companies during that area. So it was all self-learning. So I had my own blog. I tried to, find different ways to do it. I learned coding myself, web development, or simple web design, web analytics, and stuff like that. So these are skills which of course, I like doing that. So what I'm trying to say is you have to build these skills over the years, and different kind of skills. Same goes for, let's say, mountaineering, right? Or trekking. And it all comes with experience. The more you do, the better you get at it. So I remember my first trek at Pindari Glacier. I had a heavy backpack. I know it weighed some 15 kg or more. I had carried a lot of unnecessary things in it, like books I thought I will read along the way, and things like that, which we offloaded at each and every camp. But in the next one, I went to Goichala in Sikkim 1 year later. I had one sleeping bag which was suitable for 10 degrees of temperature, okay? And we were in sub-zero there. So I had no idea, okay, what are the different kind of sleeping bags which are there. And I was walking on with sneakers, not with trekking shoes, stuff like that. I think over time, you get to know, okay, these are things which you should carry. These are things which you should be, these are the gear which should be always. This is how you should use it. And various skills which you develop along the way. So that is something very important for an entrepreneur. Today, in fact, at Rustik Travel, when we started, it became very easier because, okay, right from how to set up a server, where our website and other things, I know it all, or at least most of it, to various other aspects of digital marketing or other things. So it gives a better, it gives or empowers the entrepreneur to do much more rather than outsource it or hire someone just for this. Of course, you save a huge amount of cost while doing that. So I think this is something which is very important. And So, okay, this is, of course, I do a lot of, forget the first part. So there are a lot of other things which I do, right? I write, shoot documentaries. So these are some things, some small hobbies which I'm able to do because Rustik Travel provides me that platform. But I do podcasting as well. But these are, what I'm trying to say is, these are new skills which you try to acquire as you go along, because many of these would help you monetize, try to expand your business model or revenue streams as you go along. So you may start with one idea, but you may realize that idea is not that monetizable. You have to go beyond that. I remember the first company we started, E-Delta C Communications, we had a product idea, which never saw the day of light. We did something else. We are doing more service-oriented this thing. We had clients. So you went with what the market wanted, right? So, and it may require skills which you may not have. So it's always important to, upskill yourself. And when it comes to trekking, so I like doing this, and that's something which I've been doing. And so before Everest, I had, some 20 years of trekking and climbing experience with me. I climbed some 11 6,000 meter peak, 7,000 meter peak one. And with Rustik Travel, I started leading groups. So going as a trekker or a climber vis-a-vis leading a group is completely different. You're responsible for people, for the safety, for the health, in case something goes wrong. That learning helped me quite a bit in Everest, because if something went wrong, I shouldn't be dependent completely on my climbing Sherpa. I could be on my own, take care of myself and him if required. So that is something which came, really helped me during this expedition. And of course, you upskill also. So I did this course called WFR, Wilderness First Responder, a few years ago by National Outdoor Leadership School based in the US. I mean, the course was in Bangalore. And they have a center in Ranikhet, actually. This is a 10-day intensive course about, different aspects, what could go wrong in the outdoors. It could be a broken arm, it could be mountain altitude sickness, it could be a snake bite, it could be hypothermia. So how do you deal with that, right, till the person gets rescued? It could be a cardiac arrest, how to administer CPR. So this was, I felt it was such an amazing course and such amazing learnings, These are life skills which one could use in urban setting as well. So skilling and experience, they really help you, they give you that confidence. I felt that during this expedition totally. I won't say that it's overconfidence, but it really helped me, get some confidence to be on the mountain in, various uncertain situations. So, okay, these are some of the things which I do. That's the book I wrote that was based on my first startup, but more fictionalized, and some treks and climbs I led. Okay. The fifth is the process. So this is the most boring part, I feel. But this is the most important part. These are the things which you do every day, right? These are repetitive things, but you keep on doing and doing, right? When I started preparing for Everest, I decided last year that, okay, let's do it. And I knew I have to prepare at least 1 year in advance, intensive. Before that, I've been trekking, all that is fine, but specifically for this, I did 1 year. I said, okay, 1 year ago, 1 year earlier, I'll start the preparation. And from there on, it was like 6 days a week. So you're doing, climbing, conditioning, going to gym, doing yoga. Basically 6 days a week, you are spending 1 to 2 hours just doing that. Whether it's raining, it's hot, you're getting up in the morning and going out there, going for a run, going to the gym. Basically, you're doing this every day. It gets boring after some time, let me tell you that. But one has to keep on doing that. Of course, I mixed it with a lot of treks which I did, climbs I did during the last year. And I would say that a lot of those repetitive things I did, be it strength training or in the gym or running or doing a regular cardio, they actually helped me because there was not any moment where I felt I was exhausted. I may have been tired in some parts, but that gave me that confidence, at least from a fitness point of view and a mental strength point of view. It really helped me. So that process is very important, I felt. So these are the 4 things which I did. The training mix of climbing conditioning is basically taking a big backpack around 20 kg or so, go up and down 1 to 2 hours. In Bangalore, I used to go to Nandi Hills or stairs. In treks, I used to carry my own backpack. Cardio, usually running, strength training, different muscles in the gym. Flexibility, I mainly did yoga. And of course, this is other things. So typical, then you go into getting the right gear, equipment, arranging for finances, and before the trip, you ensure you have insurance. I ensure that I have a will also, in case I don't come back. So, these are part of process, these are part of preparation which you have to go through, which I did. Just to give you a view of what you go through is, this is just a fraction of what we take up there, right? So there's the shoes, the right one, that's an 8,000 meter shoe, and the left one is a 7,000 meter shoe. That itself costs around 1.25 lakhs, right? That's some 20,000 cheaper. Then you have sleeping bags which are not here. You carry 2 of them, one a minus 40 degree comfort grading sleeping bag, another one in minus 30 degree because it gets that cool. Like that ascenders, which are called Jumars. Those are the ones which you go into a rope and it sort of, like a ratchet, it takes you up. So you sort of pull it up and you walk using that. How you descend. So basically there's a down suit which is really, and all of these are very expensive. But again, as part of the process, you should be familiarized with them. So you should have used them somewhere. It shouldn't be that you'll be taking there and using it for the first time. So it is, and which I did to a larger extent. So this is how it looked like. This is from my house when I packed on the left, around 55-60 kgs of luggage which we took to Nepal. Okay. So I'm going to talk a bit about the expedition. It's a 2-month long expedition, and there are different phases of it. First is you reach Kathmandu, 2-3 days you're there. The Sherpa comes, looks at your gear, everything is fine. If you need still something, you buy it. Then you trek to the Everest base camp, which is an 8-day trek with acclimatization. Then once you're there in the base camp, the bit of training happens, couple of days, 2 days to 3 days. Then you do rotations, acclimatization rotations. Basically, you go up, let's say to camp 1, come down, go to camp 2, come down, camp 3, come down, till you get acclimatized. Then you wait for the weather window to open, and then you go for the summit push. So I will talk about a bit of each of these. So I'll just go to, yeah. So one of the things which, as part of this journey, was meeting people across the world. So I went with a company called 8K Expeditions, and this is some of them here. For example, on the left in yellow is Alex from France. Next to him is Casper from Estonia, who's also a free diver and dived all the way down to 101 meters, which is a national record for him. Next to him is Daniel Peterson from England. This guy here is Abdul Samad from Afghanistan, 23 years old only, now lives in Norway. Next to him is a couple, Rune from Norway, who's asthmatic. Next to him is Cicely, who is type 1 diabetic. So, amazing number of people. And next to him is Hugo from Bolivia, who was trying two peaks, Everest and Lhotse. Lhotse is the 4th highest peak. So he was doing that back to back without oxygen. So, and he has done 5 8,000 meter peaks in Pakistan without oxygen, including K2. So he was one of the strongest ones. And some more. Next to me, Nikolai from Russia, who was in K2 last year. On the left is Pablo from Argentina, who is 63 years old. And he submitted. Next to him is Dravko, around late 50s. He was doing Lhotse only. He has done Everest before, but without oxygen. So, you got to meet a lot of different people. Here on the extreme right is, in the green, his name is Tenzing. He was a Nepali climber, and he's a DJ. So he's the first on top. So, and we had a party in camp too with all his gear, and he performed for us, right? So I'm just going to skip this through. Basically, this is the trek to base camp. You start from Lukla, which is incidentally is the world's dangerous airport, because it's a very short runway perched on a cliff. And a lot of accidents happen during that time. So once you make it to Lukla, I think you can do EBC, because that's the most dangerous part of the entire thing. And it's a very nice trek all the way up. This is pictorially, I'm showing you different, there's Namche Bazaar down. It's very beautiful. There's Teng Boshe, and then other places, and finally Everest Base Camp. Everest Base Camp is like a city in itself. Around 400 to 450 climbers are there. That's the number of permits which were given this year. And plus their Sherpas, plus the staff, the cooks, the helpers, all of them. So, and the huge number of, it becomes like a city. For 2 months, it's like a city there. So let me just show you a video. This is our part of the camp in Everest Base Camp. So these are dining tents, kitchen tent. Those are our tents behind, those single tents. And one of those is a cafe. This one was a cafe. A cafe with a coffee machine, cappuccinos and everything. And it's a very luxurious camp. So you go to the kitchen, you'll see the latest equipment, ovens, the burners and all that. And the best chefs in Kathmandu are in Everest Base Camp during that time. So you have a bakery chef who will make cakes and cookies every day for us. There was a separate chef for the Chinese team for their palate. For international team, there was a separate chef. There were 6 Indians in our group, so we used to get our aloo parathas and biryanis and all that. So amazing it was at that altitude. Sorry. Just a mix of what happens. So you are there for a long time, so you tend to meet, interact with others, hang out, and of course eat, drink, sleep, and wash. So you do a couple of days training. Most of the climbers have come there, they know what to expect, but there are some obstacles you go through, like climbing that wall or crossing ladders in Khumbu Icefall. There's a puja which happens, and only after that you are allowed to set foot on the mountain. And this puja, which is by Buddhist monks, it's actually, they ask permission from the mother goddess to set foot on her and for safe passage to the summit and return. And after puja, there's a huge party which happens usually. So, okay. Okay. So after all this fun and frolic, the actual work starts, which is to climb. So, but to climb, you have to get acclimatized first. So one has to do rotations on the mountain. Basically, go to the higher camp, sleep for a bit, and come down to base camp to recover. And then go to much higher camp and come down. So at least 2 to 3 rotations everyone has to do. Now, each time you have to go through a place called Khumbu Icefall. Okay, so let me actually take you through this. If you can see this, this is the route all the way to Everest, right? So it starts with a which is at 17,600 feet or 5,364 meters. And Camp 1 is at 6,100 meters. Between this is a place called Khumbu Icefall. The base camp itself is on a glacier, the Khumbu Glacier. This icefall is like, like a waterfall or icefall, always on the move. And it's a very treacherous part of Everest. Basically, it's a minefield of crevasses, those wide gaps in ice, and huge seracs. These boulders, they may weigh anywhere from thousands of tons to millions of tons. And they could fall anytime. So a lot of accidents happen every year. So you're going there and it falls. Every year some accident or the other happens. And lots of people, just to avoid Khumbu Icefall, which is on the south side, they go to the north side to climb. So that they have to avoid this. Because this is the most riskiest part route. So from Camp 1, then you go to Camp 2, which is around 6,400 meters. This is between Camp 1 and Camp 2 is an area called Western Coombe, COOM, which is actually a valley in Welsh. And this is the hottest part of Everest. The temperatures go anywhere from 40 degrees onwards, 40 degrees Celsius. And the reason is that it's surrounded by those high mountains, so that heat gets trapped. So I remember I was completely dehydrated the second time I went through it while going to the summit. Then from Camp 3, you go to Camp 2, you go to Camp 3. At 6,900 meters is when you start taking oxygen. And from there on, you're always on the rope. Before that, you are on and off on the rope wherever it's required. But it's a very steep climb all the way to the summit. And you reach Camp 4. Camp 4 is at 7,950 meters, almost at the dead zone, which is 8,000 meters. And then there's summit. So I'll show you visuals for these. Right. So as part of my rotations, I avoided going to Khumbu Icefall first time. I climbed a similar 6,000 meter peak away from this region, so which gave me acclimatization for. I avoided going through Khumbu Icefall. Many people don't do that; they just go through this. Now, this is somewhere, this is a typical terrain of Khumbu Icefall, and there's no set path. You have to scramble all the way up. And coming down is even worse. You could get injured and all those things. Also, there's a team which is called the Icefall Doctors. They set up routes here. So there's an organization called SPCC, Sagarmatha Pollution Control Committee. They have a team of Sherpas. So their job is to set route here, because what happens is that the route changes every day, because this ice fall is continuously moving, right? So one day you go, you may see some serac here, some crevice here. Next time you come there, next day, those may not be there, right? Some serac would have fallen, some new crevices have come up. So they're continuously monitoring it and changing the route accordingly. And we have to go through this. And this time, the way they had laid route, they had, of course, tried to avoid as much as they can of seracs and crevasses, but they were still there. But in the bargain, the route became very longer. So a typical 6 hours was taking 9 hours to go up. So a lot of climbers decided they'll do just one rotation. So you basically go through Khumbu Ice Fall. This is what Camp 1 looks like. It's completely on ice and snow. And it's a very windy part because it's exposed. This is that western Coombe, which is very gradual but very hot region. And this is Camp 2. This is on a rocky patch, and it has better facilities. It has a kitchen tent, and we generally spend time here rather than Camp 1 while going up. And this is below Camp 3, the Jumar point. Beyond this just increases. So if you go down, this is how it looks like. So I'm rappelling down Camp 3, Jumar point actually. Yeah. Right. So we did our rotations, and okay, I'll come to the sixth lesson, which is VUCA, right? The entire summit expedition is this, and of course, there's a huge learnings from this. So while during entrepreneurship, you may not have, a dangerous situation where you could lose your life, but there'll be other results or sort of or other failures which you may have to go through, and those would be situations which are which will be like this. They will be uncertain, they'll be very complex or very ambiguous, which you have to deal with. And this is exactly how, as an entrepreneur, I have faced all my life. I mean, there were times, especially during my first stint as an entrepreneur, where the entire digital marketing or digital world was just at at a very nascent stage. So it was completely changing. Or even now, as a travel business which I run now, 2 years of COVID happened. We had no idea what to do. But of course, you have certain certain maturity which you've learned from in the past, and try to take care of those situations, which could be this. So I remember, so during this expedition, while coming down from the rotation through Khumbu Icefall again, because you have to go to the base camp. So coming down is really difficult. So at one point, I had an awkward landing, so to say, where my foot sort of landed like this instead of straight, and I injured my knee. So this is after my rotation is ending. I'm going to the base camp through Khumbu Icefall. This happened, and I realized that okay, and my knee just gave way. So I realized it's a ligament tear, because I've had ligament injuries in the past, just saw some pictures before. So I knew, so if it's a ligament injury, then I knew that, okay, I have to go home. I have to abandon my summit attempt. I slowly walked down. I still had hours to go to reach base camp. So with that, I went down, and I met the doctor at the base camp, and they examined me, and they said that it's a ligament tear and you have to evacuate yourself. So next day I went to Kathmandu, and they put a brace on my leg. They did MRIs, X-ray, all that. And basically I had realized that, okay, now the game is over. I have to go back to India. All the money, whatever things, money I spent, the time I spent preparing for this, all gone. I'll have to take, maybe try next year or maybe never. So next day the doctor came, who was taking care of this, and he looked at the reports. He said, X-ray, there's nothing, it's fine. But when he looked at MRI, he said it's a strain. It's not a tear, it's a strain. So which gave me some hope. And he said, you don't need this brace, you can walk without it. And he discharged me then. So next 9 days I was in Kathmandu. I was just resting, keeping my foot like this, and walking also, of course. So I felt better. It was a minor strain as it happened, but the injury was still there. I could feel it if I tried to do too much of stretching and all that. But it was a blessing in disguise, because since my rotations were over, all the climbers generally go to lower altitude to recover, where at a tree line where they can have more oxygen. So I was in Kathmandu where there's a lot of oxygen. So it helped me recover well. So I was here, and on the 9th day I was feeling okay, and I decided I will go back to the base camp and I will attempt to climb Everest. And so I took a helicopter. So I took a helicopter and went midway at a place called Perishe and walked 2 days to base camp, and I felt well. So it was good. The final lesson I would talk about is execution, and that's where I talk about my summit attempt, that whatever you've learned in the past, skills, execution, skills, experience, it has to go into execution. And as an entrepreneur, I feel very strongly about that, because frankly, I encounter so many people who just talk, right, and do nothing. If you're like that, you shouldn't go towards entrepreneurship. You have to go out there, dirty your hands, day in, day out. That's execution. Until it's done. You may fail, that's fine. But you have to keep on executing. You have to keep on doing it. Don't just, whatever you say, you do it. So I think that's why it's a very important lesson, and that's something which I took with me throughout this expedition, especially through this summit push. So when I came back to the base camp, I think it was 11th May, and that was a time when all the other climbers also came. And they were all gone down to recover at lower, the lower altitude places, need not be Kathmandu. And then all of us were waiting. Now, we were waiting for our expedition leader to tell us, okay, these are the weather windows, you should go. Now, what happens is that Everest is at an altitude of 8,900 meters, right? Now, this is very close to the jet stream where the aeroplanes fly, right? And jet stream, the wind speed is at around 200, 300 kilometers per hour onwards. But throughout the year, Everest, at that altitude, 8,000 meter plus, this is the wind speeds which go. So it's impossible for any climber to, climb in that speed. You'll be just blown away. Now, historically, and it has happened that in May, there are a handful of days, just a handful of days, where this wind speed goes down to a manageable level, like at 20 kilometers, 30 kilometers per hour. And those are just few days. This is the weather window where a climber should go and summit. Of course, with when So I was thinking all this while when I was there, technology of course has improved quite a bit, and our expedition team, they used to buy data from the Nepalese government, which was fairly accurate, but of course it may change. But I was thinking, in the past, how did Tenzing Norgay or Inman Hillary submitted when they did not have such, weather warnings? So of course, and even with all these sophistications, weather changes. There was one incident where a weather window was announced and a team went, not our group, some other team, and they reached all the way to Camp 4 and the wind started blowing. Everyone got frostbites and they had to come back to Camp 2 again. So, and try for another day to go up. So things changed, drastically. So for us, there were two groups. I was in the second group, and we had decided we'll go start from 17th May and then climb accordingly. So there were around 8 members in our group, and most of the others were the other group. So this time 3 weather windows opened up. One was 12-13 May, other was a bigger one, 19 to 23rd May, and last one was 26-27 May. So we were in that 19 to 23rd May weather window. And since it was a large window, all the climbers went in that. So this is the end of Khumbu Icefall. There's a huge wall you have to climb. It's a very difficult wall. I broke my harness here, and very difficulty I went up. And we were one of the first ones to reach here, but there was a huge queue. It took me an hour to clear that view and go up. This is just a ladder crossing. This time, since the icefall doctors had laid the route, there were only one ladder rather. In the past, there were 2-3 ladders to, wider crevices. But these were very unstable, and one has to be really keep a balance while crossing it. Yep. Camp 2 to Camp 3 is, and I showed you some pictures before, it's till 6,900 meters. It's a gradual climb, and that's when you start having, you're on oxygen from that onwards, because it becomes really high altitude and you do that. So I put on an oxygen cylinder, and my Sherpa was right next to me, so he was helping me. We are given a training how to use oxygen cylinders, so we have also an idea how to use that. This is Camp 3, which is actually on an incline, completely on snow. It's very difficult to make this. It took Sherpas, 3 days to just put these tents, because it was all inclined, so put it as a flat. When we reached in Camp 3, we decided that we will leave early in the night, around 2 a.m. The reason being that there was a lot of traffic we encountered. So if we leave early, we will reach Camp 4 early, we'll get more time to rest, and then go and climb the same day, same evening. But what happened was that in the night rather, it started snowing, and we just couldn't get out. So early morning we woke up, it was still bad weather. I thought maybe we will not go, but my Sherpa said no, we have to go. So at around 6-7 a.m. we started moving, and so did the crowd, right? So there are a lot of obstacles along the way from Camp 3 to Camp 4. There's a place called Yellow Band, right? These are yellow rocks, rocks which are almost color yellow. Now, you're wearing those crampons. Now, on ice and snow, it's easy to walk, but on rocks, it really becomes difficult. And this is a big obstacle along this route. So invariably, somebody gets stuck there, or they're climbing slowly, and there's a traffic jam build up happens at the back. So this is, while waiting, I took this video. It's an, and there's a traffic which goes all the way. So there's two climbers sitting. In fact, one of them is Jyoti Ratre. She was in my group. She eventually climbed. She's the oldest Indian woman to climb at 55 years this time. Yeah. So she had gone few days ahead of us, and she had climbed and coming down. So there's only one rope, so their climber is going up, and their climbers coming down. So it's very difficult to do that. Yeah. And you finally reach Camp 4, and that's where so this is Everest. So it looks beautiful. So this is the South Col. This area is called South Col, and it's a pretty flattish area. And by the time we reached in the evening, sun had come out, and we had this amazing view. No, it was not windy in Camp 4. It was pretty pleasant. Yeah. Right. So when we reached Camp 4 on 20th May, we were very tired. Everyone was tired. Sherpas were tired. We reached late. A typical 7 to 8 hours took around 11 hours. And there was a lot of traffic. So some of us decided that we will not summit that day. Because if we go that day, A, we are tired. Two, we get very few hours of rest. And main thing is we'll encounter the same traffic all the way to the summit and back. So we slept at Camp 4, which is not advisable, because the higher to a high altitude, you should spend as little times there and try to come down, as fast as you can. But anyways, we stayed there for one night, and half of our group, they went up along with many other climbers to the summit. So the next day, which is 21st of May, is in the evening, we started to climb. Now, right from Camp 4 is just all the way up, very steep. And so I'll just show you. This is something I took when we just started the walk. That's my Sherpa, Bempa Dorshi. Behind there's Makalu Peak, which is the 5th highest in the world. So when we just started, we heard one news from our Sherpas and others that 2 of our climbers are missing who had gone one day before. So the British climber Daniel Peterson and his Sherpa, we came to know that they summited that morning, and on the summit there's a very thin ridge called the Northeast Ridge, and there's Hillary Steps in that same place. So they had summited and they were coming down, and there was a lot of traffic, and during that a big cornice of ice collapsed, and with that it took 6 climbers with it on the Tibet side. So Everest is at the border of Tibet and Nepal. 4 of those climbers were clipped onto the rope, but these 2 were not, and they went down in the on the Tibet side, some 1,000 meters down. So, and Tibet side, I mean, nobody could survive that kind of fall. And we couldn't even do rescue on Tibet side. It's largely limited to the Nepal side. Chinese authorities do not allow that. So we heard that news. It was, and we had just started summiting. There were there was Cecily and Rune who were coming behind me. They also heard it. Cecily was so distraught, she just abandoned her summit attempt and went back to Camp 4. Rune went ahead and we went along. But, this weighed us down quite a bit. So this is as the evening progressed. This Camp 4 behind us. And at one moment, I mean, after, when it was completely dark, you could only see, headlamps, just going up in one line. It was just beautiful. So, okay. So when you start from Camp 4, you go to steep place, to a place called Balcony. Balcony is at 8,000, midway between Camp 4 and the summit, which is slightly flattish, so you can rest a bit, but most of the time you're not resting. And then you turn left to go towards South Summit, which is very steep. And in the night you're climbing that, and you don't realize till you see it in the morning. So this is towards South Summit, as steep as this. Then as you cross the South Summit, then you reach this ridge called Northeast Ridge, which has Hillary Step, which is fairly technical. And as you could see, only one person can go at one time. And this was one day before, completely crowded. The day we were there, it was okay. I mean, we could peacefully go. Very few climbers were there. So, but still, you walk very slowly. I mean, I got one chance to take this video while I was there. You can actually see the curvature of the earth on here. This is just half an hour away from the summit. It's below that. That's me with the blue gloves. And behind this you go down a bit and then there's a summit. Yes, and then I finally summited, which is this. It was, I think when I went there, this is the top, okay, where the prayer flags are there. And they have this place, some bench like I think Sherpas must have made. I was so tired, I just sat there. And took all those photos and all that. I had some 3 camera phones, I mean 1 camera phone, 1 GoPro, Insta360. I realized that the battery had run out for all of them, even though they were in my down suit. So all these photos are from my Sherpa simple phone. And the weather was so nice throughout the night actually, and even now the light was very good, and we got amazing photos. We spoke to the base camp. They said, they congratulated us and they said that, okay, you guys have to come down now fast because the weather is changing. And the moment they said that, the wind started blowing and a storm hit us. And it started snowing. and we started to move down, and almost 1, 2, 3, 4 meter visibility. You have to come down at the same way you went up, which was really difficult. So this is a view from the top. And this is how we are coming down. I mean, we sat for a bit because we were hungry and wanted to drink water. It's very difficult to, wait and take some chocolate out of your pocket and try to eat. But you have to do that continuously. You don't feel hungry or thirsty, but you have to keep on drinking and eating. So he gave me a chocolate. Yeah. And then it was all coming down. So most of the climbers, and when I reached the summit, I was, a lot of people have asked me, so how do you feel when you reach the summit, the top, top of the world, Everest? Actually, I didn't feel anything. I knew that I have come halfway. Because you'll finish the journey when you reach down safely, alive, right? And that's where a lot of people, climbers, make mistake. Even to take that example to entrepreneurship or real world problems, we sometimes, let's say our company gets funded, we feel very good about it. Oh, we have got so many $1 million valuation, we are there. But that's just the beginning. You have to use that funding to a better use and make it sustainable with revenues and profits and stuff like that. So I knew that this is just halfway through, I have to come down. So I was totally focused, even with this storm which was hitting us. And all that experience over the years which was there, which I was talking about, it came and helped me. Be it using rope in a certain way, putting your foot in a certain way. And mind you, I had that injury back of my mind. Thought of that injury. It was still there. I knew that if I get injured here, it would be very difficult for me to come down. My Sherpa can only do that much. In fact, I had from camp 3 onwards, I had taken one more Sherpa just to carry extra oxygen cylinders. And I knew that I will go slow, going up and coming down especially. If we run out of oxygen, then it's the end. So we need those extra cylinders there. So in fact, his name was Antashi, my other Sherpa's younger brother. So both of them came with us. And we did okay. But along the way, coming down, I met a few of them, a lot of climbers struggling to go down. Some were sliding down very amateurishly. There was one climber I met at the summit who had crossed while going up to the summit, who was lying down on his Sherpa's lap and crying. And this was a time when the storm had started. Many days later, I read about one Kenyan climber at the summit who died and his Sherpa went missing. It was them. And as I was going down, between balcony and camp 4, we met one climber just, hung to a rope because we have to go through the same road. He was totally struggling, mainly oxygen. So we, put his mask together, checked his valves, etc. He was running out of oxygen. So I asked my Sherpa to let's give him one of our cylinders. We had one cylinder left. My Sherpa said, no, we cannot do that. I pleaded with him, no, he will die. My Sherpa just said no. And that's where it ended. Of course, he knew that if we run out of oxygen as we go down, it will be difficult for us. So we left him as he was and went down. Next day, when we were going down from Camp 4, there was a team of 4 Sherpas coming up. And we were talking to them. They were going up to get his body he didn't make it. He was a Nepali climber who had run out of oxygen. His Sherpa had gone down to Camp 4 to get extra oxygen. By the time he came back, it was a bit too late. And all this is happening while people are descending. And like we are still descending. Camp 4 to base camp is still a long way through, right? You still have to go through Camp 3, Camp 2, and Khumbu Icefall again, right? So one has to be focused all the way through. This is near Camp 2. We took a break, got some Coke, celebrated. Yeah. Yeah, that's it. So this year, there are some notable achievements which happened. I just want to talk about them. I'm almost done. Kamirita Sherpa, he's the guy who climbed Everest 30 times over the years. This time he did it 2 times. Purnima Shrestha, she's a Nepali climber. She was part of our group. She has done Everest before, K2 also. This time she climbed Everest 3 times. Basically base camp, she went to a top, came down, went again, came down 3 times. This is a world record. Before that, woman, yeah, amazing. Before that, the record was two times by an Indian climber, Anshu Jamsemai from Arunachal Pradesh. This is Jyoti Ratre. She was part of my team and very lively lady. At 55, she's the oldest Indian woman to climb Everest. Yeah. I met Kamya during rotations. She was there with her father. Kamya is 16 years old. And she's from Mumbai. She's still in school. Very well behaved and very strong. She was going ahead. Her father was coming behind. Satyadeep, I don't know, but he was in a different camp. He went Everest and traversed to Lhotse, then came down to base camp, then went to Everest, Lhotse, and came down. So twice he did in 6 days. Why is the question that we will not be able to answer. And there's a Polish climber, he did in Lhotse without oxygen. Yeah. These are the fellow climbers who died this year. 8 of them, their 8 fatalities happened. The top 5, they were from our group, so I know all of them. Banshi and Lal, in fact, used to sit right next to me in the dining tent and used to just hang out with me. In fact, when we were going up from Camp 3 to Camp 4, they were rescuing him down. They were bringing, which I thought, his body down, which went past me. But actually, he was not dead at that time. He was unconscious. He was taken to Kathmandu hospital in Kathmandu. And after my expedition, I went there to see him also, which I couldn't see because in ICU. And 2 days later, he passed away. So he had what they call as HACE, high altitude cerebral edema, where your brain, the fluid, gets accumulated in the brain. He had that. He was a cop. He was in the police actually, ex-police actually, in Chhattisgarh, and he used to run an academy for kids affected by Naxal violence, and basically more of a skills training used to do in sports, mountaineering, and which used to get them jobs. So he was doing that. These were 2 Mongolians who went during the first weather window, and they were doing without oxygen. So they summited again while coming down at South Summit. They just died. And Daniel and Pasenji Sherpa, they fell off during that accident. The Kenyan climber and his Sherpa, who we crossed at the summit, he was climbing without oxygen. So at the summit, he was totally out of, And this is the Nepali climber we tried to help along the way, who didn't make it. So yeah. That's it. Thank you.